Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm here today on Tuesday to talk another day about events after the resurrection. Today I want to share from Luke chapter 24 and with verse 35. But before I read 35, I want to talk about verse 13. After the resurrection, Jesus appeared several times to different people. And verse 13 says that the same day that he arose, two of his disciples were walking down the road to Emmaus. Emmaus is about 7 miles away from Jerusalem. And they were talking about all the things that had happened. They were talking about what the women were saying. And it was so impossible to believe. I mean, let's face it. If I told you that somebody was murdered and you saw it, and then 3 days later they were still alive, had risen from the dead, wouldn't you have a hard time believing that? So these two from Emmaus, or on the road to Emmaus, met Jesus and he spoke to them. And that brings us to verse 35. Then the two from Emmaus told their story. So you have Jesus appearing to the women, who then appear to these two, who now tell their story. Then the two from Emmaus told their story of how Jesus had appeared to them as they were walking along the road, and how they had recognized him as they were breaking the bread. And just as they were telling it, Jesus himself was suddenly standing there among them, and he said, "Peace be with you." You know, this is kind of strange. How does Jesus know where to show up? Do you ever think about that? Of all the places he could have shown up, this is now 7 miles from where the women saw him at the tomb, after the tomb. So now he appears again. He just has a way of showing up at a point of need. Your need, my need, anybody's need. Somehow Jesus knows. Now think about that. Of course he knows. God knows everything. But at the same time, it's a little bit odd if it happens to you. Now, if it happens to someone else, oh yeah, okay, I hear you. But then it happens to you, and there's nothing you can do but go, wow. So these guys are walking down the road, and these two guys, other guys that Jesus met, tells them what happened. And then while he's talking, or they're talking to each other, Jesus appears and he says, "Peace be with you." Now, the word peace there doesn't mean just contentment for a moment. It means the absence of anything that keeps you upset and keeps you troubled. I know we've all been troubled. People are troubled today. I mean, this moment that I'm making this video and the moment that you watch this devotional, people are troubled. But Jesus appears in the midst and says, "Peace." You don't have to live troubled. Now, the circumstance he's not necessarily going to change, or at least not change at the speed you might like him to change it. But the pressure of what the situation is creating can change. And it goes on to say here, the whole group was startled and frightened, and thinking they were seeing a ghost. Well, I can understand that too. If I had been there, I might have thought the same thoughts, and you probably did also. But then Jesus says, why are you frightened? Why are we frightened? What is that? Verse 38. Why are we frightened? If Jesus comes into our midst, like he did here, like he does to thousands and millions of other people all over the world, if Jesus comes into our midst, whatever is going on is going to be changed. Changed in the way God wants it to work out. Now, it may not be the change the way I want it to be, but that's okay. I'm not in charge. He is. Why are you frightened? He asked. So I'm going to ask you today, look at your life. Look at your situation. What's going on in your life at this very moment that doesn't seem to be right? Is it a sickness? Is it a monetary concern? Is it a family relationship concern? Is it something that is inside of you? Is it something that's happening outside of you? Whatever it is, let me share the words of Jesus. Peace be with you. Why are you frightened? If we will allow those two phrases, the statement and the question, to resonate inside of us at every moment that trouble comes, we will be able to do what these guys were able to do. Rejoice in the presence of God. Will you think about it? Hope you have a great rest of the day. If you have a need or concern, please let us know. We'll do everything we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Thanks so much for listening. I'll be back tomorrow with another idea.